Hey YouTube, welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm gonna showcase my musket hybrid build which I've been running on my streams since I've been asked this question a lot. So we're gonna cover both what gear, what attributes and specifically what perks to take for your musket. Attributes. So, hybrid builds. As the name implies, the damage that you're gonna be doing is gonna be split between both magical and physical, which means there's a few crucial breakpoints that we need to reach. The most important one is the 150 intelligence. This breakpoint, 15% to elemental damage, once you do the elemental conversion, what essentially happens is you get, instead of 0.65, which you would get from every point in intelligence, it would go up to, I think, 0.85 scaling. So there is not really that big of a difference. You don't really lose all that much for going to the intelligence 3, while on the other hand, you gain so much because this time you're doing both magical and physical damage, and with the way that magical damage works, since you're gonna be converting your physical part of the damage, whichever gem you put in, you can basically use it to your advantage, so you can cover the weaknesses of the bosses. For example, like corrupted enemies, they are weak to arcane. Arcane is our main gem that I'm currently running in both of my weapons, and you can take, for example, a fire one. Fire is very good against angry earth and stuff like that, so you can pretty much mix and match the elements where you need them, have a different style of weapons for each of them. That's why hybrid, I think, in this game is gonna be the end game builds, the ones that are gonna have the highest damage potential, because you have so much adaptability. It's absolutely insane. Now that we covered like the basics of it, so 150 intelligence is one that you need to hit. Once you hit that point, like everything else in intelligence is not really worth it. 10 mana after dodge, unless you're using like a mana weapon, so fire staff or ice gauntlet or life staff, like this doesn't really benefit you in any way, so definitely not worth it. The only good one is this 30% damage on a full target. Now this would be a great ability, but for 300 intelligence, not so much. I think the dexterity one, if it's possible to reach it, my ideal stats, but if you are talking about like PVE aspect, is 300 dex, 150 intelligence and rest in constitution. That's about it. For PvP, you kind of want to have more constitution, so you're gonna have to balance it out. I'm thinking like 100 constitution is probably gonna be something that you want to aim for the PvP in order to not be too squishy. But that one is gonna be up to your personal choice. But for now, aim for 150 dexterity to get that crucial breakpoint for 3 dodges instead of 2. This is very good for a musket. I'll go into it a bit later once we go through the weapon 3 skills. Alright, now the skill tree itself. The way that you want to level this build is entirely up to you, since up to level 10 you can respec as many times, so whatever the hell you want to do, I'll leave that up to you. I can only give you like few advices. This is the one that I haven't followed myself, but I kind of wish I did. So, the trapper tree itself is something that this build usually goes after you're done. But one thing that you want to take very early on, just to make your life easier, is go to the tactical reload. Dodging reloads the musket. This is pretty much mandatory for any musket build out there. If any build doesn't rely on this, it's a wrong build. Musket is a very slow, cumbersome weapon, and at least in some sense, this one helps tremendously. There is also one more thing that goes well with the dodge, so hustle. After dodge you gain 10% haste, so increasing movement speed for 3 seconds. You can have this one permanently, so it can increase your movement speed while running around. For example, you just keep doing this. As you can see, like my buff stays on pretty much all the time, since I can dodge 3 times because of 150 dex. Pretty damn good. It's one of the faster weapons for movement in the game. It's only beaten by a bow and hatchet at a very specific setups, as like if you have a good cooldown reduction. But back to the build. Alright, so if you would want to go through the trapper tree first to get a reload, back it up. Walking, strafing, movement speed increased by 10% when enemies within 8 meters of the player, which is gonna be usually all the time, because some enemies in this game are absolutely insane with the movement speed. Actually, all are. But yeah, let's not get into that because we don't really have any reliable ways of slowing stuff down. So this one is gonna be pretty much up all the time. The second one, you have weakened defense or empowering weakness. This one is up to you. Empowering weakness is pretty much gonna be up all the time once you get your powder burn. But honestly, weakened defense is something that I prefer. It's 10 more armor penetration against targets that aren't broken with the shield, and you deal increases stamina damage from standard shots dealt to the enemies blocking with the shield by 50. I think overall this is just a better choice. Hustle, we already talked about it. This is a pretty good ability. You kinda need it to get into the tactical reload unless you want to go with a sticky bomb route. I'm gonna talk about it at the end of the skill tree about the sticky bomb, but for now, once you get the tactical reload, then you can move to the actual sharpshooter tree. Eventually, once you get to enough points, like 12 points, you should definitely respec everything and just go back to the sharpshooter tree, or just start straight away with just sharpshooter tree and get the sniper. Ultimate perk that you're gonna go for. It adds a small zoom to your musket, and it also grants 50% increased headshots. Headshots are pretty much what you're supposed to be doing with the musket in order to get the highest efficiency out of it. So what zoom does is basically, it, as the name implies, it gives you a pretty solid zoom overall, because I use it quite often, even on the enemies that are much closer. It just makes the hitboxes much easier to hit. Alright, back to the tree. What we have here is critical reload. This one, honestly, is up to you. I'll take it because I will explain how this can work very well with your actual playstyle, but you have a choice between a cold shot, increased musket damage by 5% if aimed down the sight more than 3 seconds. Very decent skill, because it goes well with some of the other perks, but this one, critical reload, landing 3 headshots with 5 seconds of each other grants an instant reload. This just feels good. A lot of times when you manage to get that first hit off, you dodge, you hit him second time with a headshot, you reload, if you manage to hit him one more time, you basically get an instant attack for the fourth, which is pretty damn solid. Overall, like, both of these abilities are fine. It's up to you. I prefer critical reload, so if you don't feel confident in landing all those headshots, trust me, I don't. I still prefer it over cold shot. The second skill that we're gonna be taking is powder burn. Overload the musket with gunpowder, causing the next shot to deal 110 weapon damage and cause a burn status effect that deals 20% weapon damage per second for 9 seconds. Does not stack or combine with other overload shots. This is by far the strongest musket ability. It buffs your standard shots with this perk, which increases it by 12% when target is on fire, which if you take this one and you land a headshot for 13 seconds, and 13 seconds is the cooldown, along with the perks that you can get from the actual armor pieces, which reduce global cooldowns and all that, you can pretty much have this 100% uptime. Shooter stance, you can start with this one, you can leave it for the last 2 points in the skill tree, it's up to you. I take it as soon as possible just to have at least 2 abilities. What this essentially makes, along with this one, shots fired for exiting the stance increases to 5. Players enters the shooting aim stance to enhance shooting performance. Shots deal 100% weapon damage while in stance mobility is reduced to 0 and reload time is reduced by 75. What it makes you do is you get to shoot extremely fast. So for example here, as you can see, you can land your shots pretty fast and pretty effectively. You can also zoom while you're standing in this stand. Obviously you can't move, that's the negative side to it, and often there's gonna be a lot of mobs that are gonna rush you and all that, but if you can get the distance, this is a pretty good openings hit, and also like loading in the musket shot is gonna proc it on your first hit as well, so keep that in mind. So powder burn and shooter stance. After those, ballistic advantage. Removes damage follow from standard musket shots on a target more than 50 meters away. This is just something that you can use when somebody is running away. This is especially good in PvP. It's very good in PVE as well, especially in invasions when things are very far away from you. So you try to get as much as you can out of your normal standard shots with the musket. You should usually aim to be a bit closer than like using advantage of this. So hit your mark, increases headshot and critical damage to target further the target is away from the player for max of 15% up to 100 meters away. So what this essentially does, just increases further away you are from the target, increases your damage, so it goes well with ballistic advantage. And then we have heightened precision. While aiming, Successful hits with the musket grant a stackable 2.5 damage increase. This effect ends when stopping aiming down the sights or more than 5 seconds pass between shots. So what it essentially does is it rewards you for holding the right click and keep hitting your target. You see that buff down there? It's 1 now. I have 2 stacks. The only problem with this, since we have the ballistic advantage, so whenever tactical reload, my bad, tactical reload, you instantly reload your musket on a dodge. That cancels the actual buff, so up to you when you want to use it. Honestly, you still want to use it even if you lose the buff, so it's very much worth just dodging every 6 seconds. After you get all these abilities and once you get the actual sniper perk, we are moving to the trapper tree. As said before, back it up is your first skill, weaken defense your second, hustle is your third, and tactical reload is your fourth. You can skip the hustle if you don't prefer that movement speed increase, since it doesn't really benefit your actual combat. I like it for the movement alone. Like, this is something I keep on all the time while traveling, since there is no mounts, there is no actual way to increase your speed, and this is one of those things. It adds up over long distances. You can start with a sticky bomb if you want, that one is up to you. So after you choose this 4 and get tactical reload, you can move into sticky bomb 3. So sticky bomb, this one is pretty much your only way to do AoE outside of maybe like a chain attack on your musket. A bomb that can be thrown at short range, sticks to anything it makes contact with. Detonation will occur 3 seconds after impact, dealing 175% weapon damage to all targets within 3 meters. This hits like a truck. It's a very good ability. It's a very hard ability as well to do. Problem is with the way that it works, getting used to the targeting with this one is, it takes time. It takes effort, but as you can see, we stick that sticky bomb on that turkey. That hit for like 2.5k. Pretty damn good ability. I like it a lot. It's a very good AoE, but as I said, it gets some time in getting used to actually using the ability. If you don't feel comfortable with that one, you have the option of going with musket with a trap. Trap is also pretty solid, and with that one change, what you essentially would be doing is you would go for the traps, you would go for all of these, and you would pretty much take the double trap, and you would skip salt on the wounds. This is my final ability. Final skill, you can have like few options here. Accuracy penalty when hip firing removed. You should never be doing hip fire. The only reason to use a hip fire is musket is the only weapon when somebody is very close to you. So if you're aiming down the sights, if your weapon is clipping through the target, it's gonna pretty much miss at point blank. The only way to hit is to actually use hip fire attacks, and yeah. They just feel wonky to me, and I almost never use them. The only time I use a hip fire attack is when I'm doing it on accident. So, not really important. Cold shot resupply. Standard attacks, headshots reduce all musket ability cooldowns by 10%. This one, honestly, your musket cooldowns are overall are not really that bad. Like, we are talking about 13 seconds here with a burn that lasts for 13 seconds if you could do a headshot as your opening shot, which you always should try to, so it's you don't really benefit all that much. Sticky bomb is also a very short cooldown, 10.5, I think it's 11 without the gear itself. So let's go through what sticky bomb has for perks. Sticky bomb grants player 40 stamina when deals damage with an explosion. The reason why this one otherwise it won't be that good, because we are talking about an ranged AoE attack. Like the thing is, whenever you're fighting somebody, if you have the aggro, chances are you're gonna be dodging around it a lot, and just to drop that grenade, then you will like dodge immediately after it or before it, so you will pretty much gain that energy back. So in that sense it's very good, and since it is a delayed explosion, if you are in a panic state and you manage to get that hit on the enemy, it gives you that crucial energy back. So overall, it's a very, very good one. And the last one is just a sticky slow. Slows them for 3 seconds. Overall, this game, it does very bad when it comes to slows. They don't last enough. They are not strong enough. But hey, still, slow is a slow. Alright, that concludes the actual weapon tree. When it comes to the armor itself, the weight class, this is entirely up to you, but I can tell you right now, playing a light armor in this game, especially with the changes in the weight system, so you can only basically have like one medium and everything else light if you are going with the chest, or having like two smaller pieces like gloves and boots in order to use two medium armors. You're too damn squishy. That damage is not worth it. The only bad part is that dodge roll, which it took me a long time to get situated with the actual dodge, which is like a small just sidestep instead of the actual roll, which I used constantly. I would definitely suggest to go for the medium armors. That is, for the current game, you're just too damn squishy to keep the light armor, especially with the setup that we are using. Musket doesn't really have that many escape mechanics. You're bound to get hit, and you're bound to gonna use your rapier to use your as a defensive weapon, not just a rapier. I'm not gonna talk about like your secondary weapons. I'm gonna go through few of them as suggestions, but any other melee weapon that you use, maybe spear. Spear is the only one that has like enough CC so you can get the hell out of there, but even in a dungeon environment, you kinda want to have at least some form of protection. And wars especially, I highly suggest medium armor over light. So, let's go through the actual gear. So the way that we do this, there is a few ways that you can actually do the armor classes, but this one, as you can see, 23 is basically the threshold when the armor starts to become heavy. So you're using pretty much all the weight that you can before you hit that heavy threshold, and this one gives you the most armor in general. So how do we achieve this? Heavy headwear and heavy chest piece. Heavy chest piece is by far the one that gives the most defenses in the game. Headpiece is the second one. Could be the legs. I'm not really sure. I think the legs in general are the second like highest defense gear. But for this setup, for the perfect setup, you want to have a heavy helmet, heavy chest piece, medium gloves, medium boots, and light pants. This is how you achieve the medium weight of 22.9, which I'm using right now, which should technically give you the best defenses. You can go for more physical, more elemental, that one is up to you. The stat wise, as I said, you need to achieve 150 intelligence. How are you gonna achieve that? Is it gonna be through the stats on the gear? Is it gonna be through the actual points that you're gonna invest over the leveling? 150 is what you need to aim there. The rest is up to you. As I said, you want to have some con. You want to have at least 50 con in any build, 50 minimum. 100 would be something that I would feel very good about for the end game. But yeah, 50 minimum, rest goes into dexterity. Dexterity is still gonna be your main stat. If you manage to get to 300 dexterity and get that whenever you dodge, that you get your next attack to be a critical hit, very good skill. Alright. I won't go through the perks themselves, it all depends heavily on the weapons that you're using, but some that are gonna work on pretty much everything is the one refreshing. Reduces max cooldowns by 2.5%. You kinda want to have this on a few pieces. Then there is this like corruption resistance and all that. If you are doing the invasions, damage reduction from corrupted or increased damage to corrupted is something that you're gonna be aiming for. So your weapons should have like damage corrupted to corrupted mode on the actual weapon. So you should at least have like 4 muskets, one for corrupted, one for ancients, one for lost and all that, if you want to maximize your damage. And with the gem conversions and all that, you're pretty much easily be able to swap, even if you don't get that perk of like more damage to a certain type of enemies, but that one is by far the most damage impact outside of the actual gear itself once it gets to the super high roll levels. One more good thing about the musket is the bleed proc that you can get from the normal attacks when you crit. That one is a very solid one as well. I haven't tested, there is a few weapons in the game that I saw that have both empowered, which is basically like splitting your damage to a single, you're doing like arcane, and then having the chain attack, for example. I saw a few weapons, I'm not sure if you can achieve that by slotting your own gems into it. That needs further testing, but it's something that should be looked into. Also enchanted, light and heavy attacks do more damage, headshot damage, critical chance, critical hit, all good stats to have on the weapons themselves. Alright, let's get back to the armor. As I said, you want to get refreshing, so max cooldown reductions, depending on what are you using. So we are using musket. The crippling powder burn is very good for the slow that you can do, especially in PvP. I haven't really touched all the actual modes that you can have on the gear. That one is gonna be for some other video, since I recently hit 60, I haven't really gone through all the mods and all that. Once I get my full run going, I'm gonna be doing the updated video. But for now, This is what you should aim for. Defection gear, which reduces crit damage on you, is also pretty damn good. That one is a lifesaver in PvP as well. Jewels themselves, pretty much the same thing as we talked about. Luck is also a good thing to have. Refreshing evasion reduces active cooldowns by 0.77 after exiting the dodge animation. You dodge a lot, so this does ramp up a bit, so sometimes getting that 1 second off on your one more shot or a shooting stance could be a lifesaver. This one is something that you need to test out, but as I said, there is a lot of modes that I haven't really gone through when it comes to crafting, so once I do get the clearer picture of what to take, but anything that is related to crit damage and stuff like that, always take it. It's always good, no matter what. Alright, that is it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed the content. If you have any questions regarding the build, make sure to ask in the questions down below. I'm gonna do my best to answer any questions you have. For now, Crow Templar out. Salute. Bye!